The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to another award-winning K4Wins, the number 4wins.com. Check out our website. It's absolutely free. And, of course, you can also subscribe to it. He is Kai Gregory. He's been in the business of handicapping ball games now for 34, 35 years, something like that. Popped out of his mama's belly. And he started placing slips right out of the womb. And then, of course, Kip Kiefer right below us, executive director, and of course he's the man with the Birmingham Racecourse Casino recent sale, and we're happy to announce that he is the man. He's running the joint, so we're very, very happy to have him on every single week. And we're missing one this week. Why are we missing Case Kiefer there, Kip?
Case Kiefer became a father for the second time last night, about 7:02 local time, with the birth of Aria Rain Kiefer. She
Nice.
was a little bit sluggish joining the party, but mama and baby doing great today. I don't know about dad. Case was pretty exasperated, but the last thing I saw last night was a picture of him giving some formula to his newborn. So I think she's already a daddy's girl, but I'm just thrilled for them. It's the first girl born in the Kiefer family in like 60 years.
Yeah.
My sister in 1961 was the last one. So we've had a bunch of rotten boys. Now we've got a beautiful new granddaughter for me. So I'm on top of the moon.
Oh, that is fantastic. Congratulations to you. And I was talking to Kai. You're a brand new cuckoo.
That's right. Cuckoo too. That's right.
Cuckoo
2.0.
And I got a feeling with a girl being your granddaughter, things about ready to change for that girl. I know you like to spoil your grandkids, but look out.
Oh,
She's in great position.
I like to spoil women in general. It doesn't usually pay back very well, but
I hear you. Kind of a transitional part of the year before we move on. I want to get Kai's views on not only how we did in college basketball, and we were doing the TV show yesterday, and we were talking about some of those numbers, Legend and I, and how well we did with K4 Sports. But talk about K4Wins. Talk about what the college basketball season was for you, Kai, and what you saw the numbers, an overview, if you could, of what gambling was like during college hoops this past year.
Well, first off, for K4 last week, we were 24-17. Year to date, 343, 183, and 4. We did hit one of our futures because we had Florida. Because somebody here, I can't remember who, started saying back in February how
like
Florida
you
was
stood
the
with them
hottest
all
team in
along.
basketball.
Yep.
Best team is going to win it all. And we had them, posted, which is, not really going out on a limb. One of the top seeds. Anyway, just felt like they were. I really feel like Vegas missed out on Florida and Alabama, especially their team totals, all year long. I think I don't have the exact number, but I know that I probably bet Florida and Alabama, just their individual team totals, over 20 times, and I bet it was 18-2 the 20 times I played it. Now there were some games you didn't have the accurate team total when Alabama was playing School for the Blind and Deaf, and Florida was playing Arkansas Pine Bluff or something like that. But overall, I feel like a lot of the overs, I feel like when Vegas fixed the overs, the over-unders in college basketball, because I like to play totals. I like to play team totals specifically and halftime totals. And it always seems to me like the easiest play all year was a first half team total. Not necessarily the line or the spread, but the first half team total. But I felt the same way in football. That's just what I guess I've kind of honed in on this year and been able to find. And secondarily, I think that especially when we got to tournament time and it came about that the SEC was that Vegas overextended what they thought of the SEC. The lines in some of those games, I feel like if it was any year but this year would have been totally different. And I know you can say, well, that's because they got 14 teams in, all this different things. But, in the first and second rounds, some of the SEC lines were just way off to me and easy money against the SEC, I thought.
Yeah, and Kip, we talked about this yesterday, just how brutal would it have been for the SEC to get shut out of a national championship. Case brought up that number. I think it was plus or minus 115 SEC or the field when we started doing our shows about a month and a half ago. But for the SEC not to win a national title there in college basketball would have been a major bummer.
Yeah, I think so. when Kai was talking there, I think I mentioned it last week on the show. I thought the best spread bet of the entire tournament was the two-time defending champions with all their DNA, Connecticut, getting 9.5 against Florida, who ended up winning the whole thing. But that was an outrageous line that I thought was the lowest hanging fruit the entire week. But yeah, to your point, Tony, the SEC, has already kind of positioned itself and was heralded by everyone as the best conference. And so for Florida to come through and actually bring home the trophy is actually really big for the conference in basketball going forward. And a lot of people, Greg Sankey, the commissioner, a little bit controversial because sometimes he acts more like a politician than worrying about the best interests of his conference. But he was pretty ahead of himself in about 2 summers ago when he said he envisions the SEC seizing control of the basketball world. And we talked about this on the show before. People were asking about expansion. He's thrown out names like Duke and North Carolina and Kansas would be good members of the SEC from the basketball perspective. But I think that all comes down to they're eyeballing the end of that 30-year CBS contract with the NCAA and know that the conferences are going to be in control of that $1 billion payday in just 4 or 5 more years. So I think this effort to make the SEC king of basketball is a very viable situation going on now, and I'm really excited to see it unfold. But you're right, a big key to it. If the SEC had come up empty, I think that would have been a step backward.
What's amazing too is, I mean, we were going in as we were looking at whether Palm or Lenardi's, whatever. It was Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida all vying for that fourth 1 seed. Didn't know if any of them were going to get the 1 seed, and for the most part, I always thought it was going to be Tennessee or Alabama because Alabama actually did have that last 1 seed there till about 2 weeks prior to conference championships, and This league is so deep. I mean, 14 of the 16 teams got in, but I mean, Florida could have won a national title. Auburn was a Final Four team. Alabama was right there in the mix. So, I mean, there's just no going to show. I can't believe that we're going to have SEC basketball be as prominent and as lucrative as it is right now for the future. It just gives me something to really look forward to because it used to be just kind of like, hey, we're going to watch until we get to college football season. If we make the big dance, it's going to be great. But there's no reason why Auburn, Alabama shouldn't be in the big dance every year now. If they don't, it's going to be a disappointment. Kai?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I mean, while we're talking about this, I just looked down at my phone and an alert. But think about this. Okay, so the SEC's always done really well in football, getting better in basketball. In college baseball, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 6, number 7. SEC
unbelievable.
12 of the top 25. Imagine what the SEC tournament here in Hoover is going to be like. Now, I can't stand the new way they're doing it, the one game, but that's a story for a different day. But I can't wait to go to it to see because last year Arkansas, great bats, their pitching sucked. Well, their pitching's there this year. Georgia, number 7 now, even with that god awful ugly shirt that Cuckoo's wearing. Georgia has a good baseball team this year. Texas A&M stepped up, won another game last night. They won 3 in a row. They're getting healthy, getting all their pieces back. They beat Tennessee 2 out of 3 last weekend after Tennessee no-hit them and run ruled them Friday night. They come back and beat Tennessee in 2 straight at Tennessee. Tennessee's first loss of the series since Alabama last year in the second series of the season. The SEC is look at what they're doing in softball. Look what they're doing in track and field and diving. I mean, the SEC is just by far the dominant conference in just about every sport. Now, I will say in hockey, the SEC, in ice hockey, the SEC is probably not the dominant
not yet.
Force. But in just about every other sport, I mean, they're pretty freaking good.
Yeah. And Kip, one more thing before we hang college basketball, but of course we got pro basketball starting with the playing games coming up here in the 14th to 15th. We're going to get into some NHL playoffs.
And that goes till like Labor Day, right? The NBA playoffs. Yeah.
Unlike March Madness the last 3 weeks, I mean, it's a blur. And the NBA playoffs, man, you're good to go. You can sit out for a couple of months and you're not going to miss anything. Kelvin Sampson, a lot of people giving him a hard time, but based on what he said after the national championship game, I think it's amazing the fact that if he had beaten Florida, it would have been his 800th win He would have been the 18th guy to join that club, 800 wins. And of course, the question thereafter is Kelvin Sampson a Hall of Famer? The number that I thought was amazing is out of the 18 guys that are in the 800 club, only 5 of them are actual Hall of Famers.
Oh, wow.
And Kelvin Sampson sitting there looking for his first national championship, and that's about as close as he's going to get. But just based on his career, he's a Hall of Famer, right, Kip?
Uh, Numbers wise, absolutely. If he would have won the game Monday, I think it would have clinched his situation. But there's a lot of people now that you don't get as much credit when you have a lot of longevity. And I think the longer he coaches and the older he gets and piles up more numbers, eventually I think they get around to putting you in. But there's some resistance to that if you don't have that one, great thing on your resume, which is the national championship, and he's come tantalizingly close. And this one with a 12-point lead with 9 minutes to go, to have it slip away, I think damages his candidacy. But I think eventually you'll probably see him in. But he's been around a long time, and if you do anything long enough, you're going to get some pretty impressive numbers.
Why does longevity not matter there, but everybody's point to LeBron James being the greatest basketball player is his longevity?
Yeah,
of course.
Well, there's a difference too between coaching and playing for sure. Because I think LeBron James is older than like 12 coaches in college basketball, which is hard to believe. No, again, I've always said I'm not a real big Kelvin Sampson fan. But I was not surprised. Our good friend Tim Branda, who we've had on the starting lineup a couple times, and he'll join us again, kind of football season, and kind of went on his own rant this past weekend. Kip, I don't know if you saw it, and he was talking about, listen, why should Kelvin be hammered for what he's talking about his basketball? It was true. I mean, they screwed up. At the end of that ball game, they had everything set up perfectly for them to win that basketball game, and for it to end. And by the way, and I know, Kip, you mentioned this. The stoppage of play, they gotta change something. I don't know what it is. The fluidity of the game, I was just wanting to scratch my eyeballs out. Every time the ball went out of bounds, they were going to look at it, and they were right. They did it 3 different times. The refs were right all 3 times. 2 of the times it was a no-brainer. I mean, we didn't have to look at it at all. For some reason, they had to go to the monitor and look. And of course, when they go to the monitor, then they're going to have to change the time. And of course, you're talking again another 3 timeouts. It just changes the game. And then we get together and we're all sitting on the edge of our seats, and then we get that ending where Houston doesn't even get a shot off the last 2 possessions. It felt like a big bummer to me. Am I missing something here?
No, that was everybody, even casual fans I talked to, says that was such a great game, but what a terrible ending.
Oh man,
because you don't even get the chance to see the potential winning shot in the air. They turn the ball over. Tony, we talked about on an earlier show that that whole situation with the referees. I still contend that what the piece of the puzzle, Houston's comeback in the last couple minutes against Duke, was incredible. Take nothing away from the effort they made, but I don't think that all-out, continuous 3 or 4 minute just blitzkrieg effort was possible without the additional 4 stoppages of play. That was 4 more timeouts to get their plan together, to get them. I mean, you can't play at this high level frenzy without stoppage, and you don't have timeouts down the stretch. And I still contend that comeback would not have been possible if we didn't stop the clock and the refs go to the monitor for every call, even the ones that are obvious to everybody that just saw it. A guy tipped the ball out of bounds. It's 100% consensus whose ball it is. How did we survive all these years in basketball? I used to be an official. You make a call, you be definitive, and you move on. Some might be wrong, but I understand wanting to get it right. There's so much at stake, but it's just gotten completely out of hand.
I don't know that you're watching K4Wins, by the way. It's a great podcast we do every single week. You can watch it on Tony Kurre Radio. And, of course, we're on every major industry out there when it comes to podcasts. You can hear it live all day on Saturdays as well as late Friday nights. And, of course, college football season right around the corner as everyone's doing their football showcases this year. They're not doing games. They're not doing the spring games. They're doing football showcases. And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. I'm not sure where the money falls in Vegas. What's gambled on the most, but I certainly know in my circles down here in the Southeast, it's college football, then it's NFL, then it's college hoops, and then it's kind of like you have a lull. You have an area of time where people really don't, and I think it's because they're just not, they like the NBA, they like Major League Baseball, they may not know how to gamble on it. But I want to kind of go through those areas because I got two experts in the NBA, and I'm going to start with you, Kai. It's amazing because you get out of the basketball season in college, and all of a sudden now the pros are getting ready to get into their playing games. Talk a little bit about the NBA so far. It's hard to believe that we're already, 70, 80 games into the season, and we're already wrapping things up. I know my son Santo is a huge NBA fan. He likes listening to this show every single week. He's like, "When are you going to start talking about some NBA playoffs?" And I said, "This week, bud, we're going to be on it." But just talk about the NBA playoffs and what you're seeing right now.
Well, yeah, we're 80 games in. Most people have 2 games left, and for the most part, a lot of them don't matter except out in the Western Conference where you've got 4 through 10 literally up for grabs right now. So 3 teams in and 4 playoff or play-in teams, if you will. It's going to be very interesting. The Houston-Denver game might actually mean something this coming week. The Clippers and Golden State game is going to mean something. But what you get into now at this time of year is you've either got some really good sharps that are playing. That's what you see playing a lot of times this year, and then a lot of people that have no earthly idea what they're doing, and they're either paying somebody for picks, following somebody's picks, pulling crap out of their butt. And generally, when they're pulling crap out of their butt, it's good enough to win 2 days a week, and then they lose 4 days. They don't play 1 day, and they pay their guy every week. I mean, that's basically what you get. Right?
Let me put my hand up.
And
that is perfect.
A lot of people,
4 paying, yeah.
Knowing people on that side of the business, let's just say the average bookmaker has 100 players. Well, 75 of those more than likely are going to be, or 60, let's just say 60% are going to be strictly football. Now they'll do college football, they'll do NFL. They'll come around a little bit in basketball, but they'll be there for March Madness, but that's really it. And then you don't see or talk to those guys after they settle up, however, or they win or lose. You don't see them again until July or August. Now they'll, the fiends, the really crazy ones will come in and start throwing some money in on a preseason game that ends 13-12 with a 17th string quarterback throw into the 24th string kicker on a special play. And you get a lot of that. But really, the next 3-4 months is pretty quiet on the gambling scene. I can tell you there's tons of futures, like for the Masters, for instance, going on right now. There's a lot. I mean, you will see, and it's become more prevalent over the last 10 years. More people bet college baseball now, especially with the interest kicking up more and more and more in the SEC. Now the SEC is pretty good because it used to be more of a Florida thing and a California thing 20 years ago. Those were the teams that were good in baseball. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You had LSU and Mississippi State, perennially, but Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, even Florida were not great baseball teams year in and year out. Mississippi State, LSU, with the coaches they had, of course they were. But you have a lot of that going on at this time. I think, the NBA is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, just looking at the futures right now, OKC's plus 170 to win it all. Boston's plus 190. The next person is Cleveland at plus 550.
Man, they've had a great season too.
All the way down to Golden State and the Lakers at plus 1,400. Then Denver's 3,000. The Knicks are 3,000. The Clippers are 3,000. Minnesota 6,600. Houston 8,000 to 1. Outside of that, everybody else is above 10,000. So I mean, it is a huge expectation of what's going to come. But if I'm the Lakers, only team I really worry about, in my opinion, in a 7-game series is Oklahoma City. But for some reason, Golden State, and even last week when they played, has gotten the Lakers. And I don't know what their coach is doing. Being a Tennessee fan, no idea why Dalton Connect's not playing more. Every time he plays, he comes out, he hits a couple threes, he's doing that. But they've had, I think, 6 of their last 10 games, he hadn't seen the floor after the botched trade and everything. But you've got Cleveland has won their division, Boston has won their division. Those are just absolutely done. Cleveland has won the division, and then OKC has won. Houston and the Lakers have clinched their a spot, but then you have Denver, the Clippers, Golden State, Memphis, Minnesota, Sacramento, and Dallas all fighting to see who's going to be the 4 seed and who's going to be the 10.
That's amazing.
So in the Western Conference, but in that, I mean, Denver's going to be up there because of their record, and then Golden State, really, Golden State and the Clippers start that second spot there.
And we're setting the table here. We'll give you some plays here if you guys got some for the show. And obviously, as we get into the playoff series, we'll certainly do that because we don't do the show every single day. We do it only once a week, and so it's kind of difficult to pick games out. We'll have some futures for you, Kip. I would think that as opposed to college basketball or college football, where you're playing one game every Saturday, that's it. When you have a 5 or 7 game series, the number's not going to change that much.
Not usually.
From game 1 to 4. Now it's going to switch obviously with home and away, right? But I mean, when you get a chance and you see a team playing the same team the 7th time in the course of 14 days, you'd think you'd really have a good finger on the pulse of what to expect. But it gets really tight, doesn't it? And it makes it even more difficult, I think, to pick a winner maybe 7 games in as opposed to just doing a 1-game play-in.
Yeah, I think coaching makes a big difference in these kind of formats because it's the coach that can recognize what adjustments need to be made. That's why you seldom see kind of no-name coaches win the whole thing. I did notice, I think about a week ago, that Malone, the Denver coach, who just won a championship 2 years ago, and Denver's like a 50-win team this year. They canned him.
I know it,
right? I don't know what the reason was, but so whoever's in that spot, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the Nuggets going forward. But I think adjustments and coaching is big because from game to game in a series, you can't change your personnel, you can't change your basic approach, but you can tinker with how you try to play another team defensively and attack another team. So the guys that have been there and have done that are in a big advantageous position. I've thought all year in the NBA that pretty much, and Kai just mentioned it, the Celtics and the Thunder and the Cavaliers have been right on that mountaintop all season long. Now, for some reason, they've tailed off a little bit here later in the year, but those were the 3 dominant teams. And probably if we'd have been having this discussion 2 weeks ago, I'd have said the champion almost surely is going to come from one of those 3. But with the numbers Kai just put out, with so many good teams in the conversation, it's like any other sport. If you just get on a roll and eliminate a team that you're not expected to, you can see. I can certainly see a Golden State or a Houston or somebody emerging. I think the West has a better overall group of teams than the East, but there's dangerous teams that are even going to be lower seeds, but you don't usually see that in the NBA. There's not many Cinderella stories. It's usually the guys at the top of the heap that win that battle of attrition and get to the NBA finals. And so I still suspect it's going to come from one of those 3 teams. Cleveland, not as much right now because, again, for whatever reason, things aren't going real well for them. But I've seen the Celtics and Thunder, and they're both, the Celtics, such a dominant team and the previous champion. I think guys get in the mentality of just waiting for the playoffs. They kind of mail it in here down the stretch in the regular season. So I hate to be a chalk player in this, but I still see either the Thunder or the Celtics eventually cutting down the nets.
You take those 3 against the field?
I think so.
Yeah. Kai, same way. And while we got you've got all the numbers. Can you give me a couple of dark horses, perhaps some teams that are getting some really good value that perhaps could win the NBA championship?
Yeah, I like Houston plus 8,000.
8,001. They're
I do. And
I
like Minnesota.
Sleeper. Yeah.
I do like both of those teams. It's a sleeper that nobody's going to talk about, and they're not the greatest team. But if they could get on a run with their youth and the way they play, the Detroit Pistons could come out there. Look, depending on the matchups, they look like they're going to get an advantageous matchup in the first and second round, just depending. So I kind of think they could come in and they're going to fly under the radar as a 6 seed because more than they're locked into the 6. They're gonna fly, pretty well right there. So those would be the 2 outside of those that I would probably lean towards.
Kip, it's been a historical NHL season. Of course, Alexander Ovechkin just passes the great one this past week. You and I were actually talking about coaches and great players on K4 and Kurre, which you can hear on Tony Kurre Radio, wherever you get your favorite podcast on TKR. And now we're getting ready for those playoffs. I like them. A lot of people, I don't watch any NHL. I don't have the time. It's not that I don't like watching hockey. I know you were at the game last night watching the Kraken. And of course, your Knights get it done last night, 2-1. But give me your overall views of what we expect from the NHL coming up, playoff season coming up here, and give me a couple of dark horses for you that perhaps money-wise makes some sense for you to pick up an NHL Stanley Cup.
And what is your streak on going to Vegas games and Vegas winning now?
Gosh, I'm up to, let's see. They haven't lost since the day before Christmas last year against Buffalo. That's my seventh in a. I think I've won 7 in a row. So that's pretty good. I should have remembered that. Yesterday was such a blur. There was so much going on, but
I remembered.
Yeah, but it was really not a very great performance by them, but they're just getting healthy again. They just got Thomas Hertl back, who was their leading scorer, the guy they traded with the San Jose Sharks last year to get. Jack Eichel, their best player, is missing a couple of games with hockey. I don't know if you guys really are in tune with this. Of all the sports, hockey is the medical condition of players is like the closely guarded secret. I think they've got former CIA people in charge of that department, because all they'll tell you, they'll never give you a prognosis of when a guy's going to be back, or he's got a upper body injury. Now that really narrows it down, doesn't it? He could have a migraine and he's missed 2 games, but I think he's going to be healthy and ready to go. If that team is healthy, they're gonna end up clinching the Pacific Division. They've almost got it done now, which makes a big difference in the NHL playoffs, which are kind of dysfunctional. But I think, unlike the NBA, where I think there's just a couple of dominant teams, the NHL is pretty much wide open in the playoffs. I don't think there's anybody you could say this year that has been a great team in the NHL. The defending champion Panthers have kind of limped to the finish line here. They're beatable. They, of course, from that great U.S.-Canada series, they lost Tkachuk, their leader, and heart and soul of their team. He's done. Maybe, again, they never tell you, but from what I hear, Tkachuk is still not healthy and will not be in the playoffs. And that team without him is just not as good. They made a big acquisition. They got Marchand from Boston, the captain of the Bruins, who had been certainly in the spotlight many times, but he's older and he's been plagued with injuries. I don't think he can step in and provide what Tkachuk does for that team. So I don't think you're going to see a repeat. As far as the team that probably has the best personnel, it's the Dallas Stars, who are a dangerous team. I think I don't know what kind of numbers we're getting on those for an eventual championship, but that's one I would throw out. Another team that's ridiculously talented but very inconsistent is the Colorado Avalanche. They're a dangerous team, and I'm sure they're going to be a good price. And the Edmonton Oilers, who made the finals last year, they've been out without Connor McDavid, their superstar. A lot of people say best player in the world for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He is rumored to be coming back for the playoffs. So with a full lineup, Edmonton has come close in recent years. So that's 3 teams from the Western Conference. The Eastern hockey is just not that good. The Carolina Hurricane looked like they were going to be really good until the last month, and they've just completely hit the wall. So I'm not high on them. I think it's going to come from the Western Conference, and those 4 teams I just mentioned: Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, and Edmonton. To me, the likely champion is going to come from one of those 4.
All right, go to K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. It's a free site. You can subscribe to it. We'll do the show again next Friday. Make sure you continue to listen to the starting lineup, of course, every Saturday morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock for 4 more lines. And, of course, congratulations to Case and his baby, and, of course, Cuckoo getting his brand new granddaughter. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch up next week.
Okay, guys. Always a pleasure.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.